Can they tell me when I can? Good afternoon and welcome to the zoo's home safari. Today we're going to be talking about the snow leopard, also known as the ghost cat. So we have a pair of snow leopards here at the zoo. Nubo is right here in front. You can tell him he's got a very dark nose, and our female Renji, who's out in the yard, has a lighter colored nose. That's an easy way you can tell them apart. Both of them are about 9 years old. The Nubo was actually born at the Cape May Zoo in New Jersey, whereas Renji came from the Chattanooga Zoo in Tennessee. And snow leopards are very well adapted for a life in the cold, mountainous regions of Central Asia. They have very thick fur, and as a matter of fact, in the winter months, that can be as much as about 5 inches thick. They can weigh anywhere between 60 and 120 pounds, and they have a very long, fluffy tail. That tail is about 3 feet long or so, and they'll use it much like a muffler or a blanket. In the very cold times when they lay down, they will use that tail to wrap around their face and their body to help keep them warm. Because they live in the mountainous regions where the air is very dry and there's not a lot of oxygen, they have very large nasal cavities, and this helps them to collect a lot of air because they have a very large lung capacity. And it also helps to kind of warm and hydrate the air before it gets into their lungs. So this is a great way for them to adapt to their mountainous regions. They can be found usually in altitudes of anywhere from 9,000 to 17,000 feet up. And this is where they primarily do their hunting of various species of goats and sheep. They will feed on ibex, tahr, blue sheep, markhor, but when things are rough, they'll also eat smaller prey such as marmots and voles. They are an apex predator in Central Asia where they come from, but rarely do they ever attack humans. They seem to be pretty easy to scare off, which is a good thing, but there are a lot of times where there's a lot of leopard-human conflict because when times are tough, snow leopards will often go after the domestic stock of the farmers there, their goats and sheep. So there are many ways that they are being protected in the wild, one of which is through the program set up by the Snow Leopard Trust, who will help mitigate the issues of human-leopard conflict, and that they will reimburse farmers who lose some of their livestock to predation from snow leopards. So that's a great way to keep the farmers from trying to kill the snow leopards so they don't attack their flocks. It's estimated that there are probably less than 7,000 snow leopards left in the wild. So it's very important that they do protect them. They're basically solitary animals and spend the majority of their time by themselves. If you do see leopards together, it's usually either a pair that has come together for breeding, or perhaps a mother and her offspring. Snow leopards will usually have anywhere from 1 to 3 cubs at a time. Average is about 2. And the cubs are born after a gestation period of between 90 and 100 days. They're about a pound each when born. It takes them about 7 to 9 days before they open their eyes, and they'll usually stay with mom for about 1.5 years before they start going off onto their own. As you can see, their coloration really helps them to blend into their mountainous habitat. We've tried to recreate that here with a lot of the rock areas we have here. And this past winter, we actually did a lot of renovation to this yard to add a lot of neat features for the snow leopards. We added the tree in the middle. We have several caves here. We will also this year we put in a little waterfall stream and a pool for them, as well as some leaping boulders so that they can jump back and forth on those to show off their great leaping ability. these guys have been known to leap anywhere from 30 to 50 feet. And at the end, we're going to have you come onto our webpage to find out how you can see how closely you can leap, like how far you can leap like a snow leopard. 30 to 50 feet, that's like the length of a bus. So we'll have some information on the webpage at the end, so you can look at that and send us your videos and photos so that we can share them with our viewers. Leah wants to know what they eat. Well, in the wild, they primarily feed on goats and sheep, primarily. Markhor, blue sheep, ibex, and tahr. They'll also eat smaller animals when the bigger ones aren't available. But something like a blue sheep or tahr or markhor will last them for about a week. And so therefore they usually only have to make a large kill once every week or so to keep them going. Ruby wants to know if they live in the snow. Well, they are snow leopards, and they do come from the high altitudes of the mountainous regions of Central Asia, where there are a lot of snow. There is a lot of snow, pardon me, and they are very well adapted to this in that their feet have fur on the bottom of it, and they're also very large. If you ever look at a snow leopard's feet, they're quite large, and they have actually act like snowshoes to help them to better walk on the snow. They also spend a lot of time climbing up and down the rock work in the snow and ice, so this fur on their feet helps to keep them from slipping and sliding. So Connor wants to know why it's called the ghost cat. Well, Connor, it's primarily because they're so elusive. You can rarely find them in the wild. There's hardly been any videos even taken of snow leopards in the wild. They are very solitary. They usually have a very wide and large range for each cat because there's so few of the goats and sheep for them to get. So they're very spaced out, and a lot of areas they come from is just hard for people to get into. So by using camera traps, we have been able to get a few not only still shots but some videos in recent times, but because they're so elusive, they just refer to them as the ghost cat or the ghost mountain cat. So Gabby wants to know why they have spots. Well, the spots actually help to break up the pattern. It's actually almost more like rosettes on the main part of the body. Their coloration is sort of grayish, which blends in with the rocks of their habitat, and the rosettes and spots that they do have act kind of more like the shadows that would be seen. So when these animals, quite often here at the zoo, people will walk right by the exhibits and the animals will be hiding in plain sight. They'll be right in the middle of the exhibit and they can't find them because they blend in so well with their habitat. Robert wants to know if they're dangerous. Well, they are leopards, they are carnivores, and they are the apex predators of their area, but they most often do not attack humans. There's very, very few cases of snow leopards that have attacked humans. Part of that is probably because they don't come into contact with them that often. They're primarily crepuscular hunters in that they are active in the pre-dawn area and pre-evening areas, and very elusive. And if there are people around, it usually helps to keep them at bay, so they don't often come into contact with a lot of people. So it's probably one of those reasons why there isn't a lot of human contact and predation by snow leopards. Wyatt wants to know if they can swim. Well, they probably can. They have very strong leg muscles, but they don't get the opportunity that often. We have put in a waterfall and a shallow stream and a very shallow pool, approximately about 1.5 feet deep, for them if they do want to get into the water to cool off during the summer months. But usually where they're found, they don't really have to wade through the water. If there are streams or shallow areas for them to cross, they'll often just leap over them using that 30 to 50 foot leaping prowess that they have to get over the areas that way. Here at the zoo in the summer months, we have air-conditioned vents underneath our viewing window that actually blow out air-conditioned air for them if they get too warm and they want to cool off. and their off-exhibit area is also air-conditioned as well. And we've added a few new caves, and one of those caves actually has a vent in it that also blows out air-conditioned air. So even though these guys feel best in the colder climates in the winter months, they can do quite well here at the zoo in the summer months. Ryan wants to know how much they weigh. Our particular cats probably go about between 80 and 100 pounds. It kind of depends on the season. Usually we try to keep them a little lighter in the summer months so they're not overheated. And in the winter months we'll pump more food to them so they get that nice winter coat on them. Males are usually a little heavier than females, so Nubo may be going 80 to 100 pounds, whereas Renji might go 70 to 90 pounds or so. Of course, Eleanor wants to know if you can have one for a pet. Well, there's only, like I said, 7,000 of them left in the world. There's probably about 10% of that, 600 to 700 of them, in zoos around the world. They are a species that is endangered of extinction, so you would have to have a lot of permits to have something like a snow leopard. But large carnivores do not make good pets as a general rule. These animals are a lot stronger and more dangerous than people think, and you should always leave it to the professionals to keep them in a safe manner. Lily wants to know about their gestation period. Usually that'll go anywhere from 90 to 110 days, with the average being between 95 and 100, after which time they will, like I said, have usually 1 to 3 cubs. The average is about 2. And we're just ending our breeding season here in Cincinnati for our snow leopards, so we're hopeful that we did see a lot of good breeding activity between them. Our female Renji has been trained by our keepers to voluntarily have ultrasounds done on her, so we will be ramping that up in the next few weeks to try to make sure if we can see if a pregnancy did occur. So we have our fingers crossed there, but again, the gestation period, most average is probably 95 to 100 days. Zoe wants to know how high they can jump. Well, their leaping ability, as I said, is between 30 and 50 feet. They can probably jump a good 20 feet in height. And that's why most times when you snow leopards in a captive environment, it will be within an enclosed exhibit, just as ours is here. It does have a wire top. So we want to make sure that safely. So, as I said, most times when you're going to see them in human care, they will be under a enclosed top enclosure. Miranda wants to know the difference between the snow and the clouded leopard. Well, the clouded leopard is more of a rainforest cat, much smaller, but also has an extremely long tail. And in both species, the tail is used for balance, and this is why it is so long. In the clouded leopard, the tail is long because the animal spends a lot of time in the trees, whereas with the snow leopard, the animal spends a lot of time jumping up and down in the mountainous regions it comes from. So again, the tail is, in both cases, used as a balancing mechanism. Julie wants to know how long they live. In the wild, they probably 10 to 12 years old is going to be an older snow leopard. In human care, they've been known to live about up to 22 years. Our two animals are currently 9 years old right now. They were both born in 2011, so they're middle-aged. Becky wants to know if their coat changes with the season. It does, in that during the winter months it gets much thicker. And then in the summer they go into their summer shed. In the wild, during the winter months, the snow leopard will actually come down into more of the upper forest areas of Central Asia, where there still is a lot of cold and snow covered. And then during the summer months, they'll go up into higher elevations. So they are really adapted to do well in cold climates, and that's why we take the extra steps we do here to keep them comfortable during the summer months. Cooper wants to know where they sleep. Well, here at the Cincinnati Zoo, we have several caves for them when they're out on exhibit, which simulates the caves that they would find in the Rocky Mountains of their home in Central Asia. We also have an indoor area that is air conditioned where we can bring them in as we service their exhibit and stuff, which has several large stalls in there and shelves that they can rest on for that. So they have plenty of different areas that they can, and a lot of times they'll just lay right out in the middle of the yard in the rock work, where, as I said again, they're basically hidden in plain sight. Caitlin wants to know if they're friendly to the keepers. Well, the keepers do have a good working relationship with them. Some of the keepers have been working very hard on training these animals, not only Renji for her ultrasounds, but also both of them have been trained to voluntarily take their vaccinations from our veterinary staff. So it takes a lot of trust for these animals to get used to having somebody poking and prodding them with needles. But the trainers take their time and work slowly on these processes. And the last time that Nubo got his vaccinations, he came right up, presented a shoulder, and they were able to give him his medication and his vaccinations for the year. So again, we want you to check the website for an at-home activity to show us how well you can jump like a snow leopard. Remember, 30 to 50 feet. Get those leg muscles in good shape. And hopefully you can join us again for our next home safari.